Throat training was my first session. It just showed up with open mouth gag, handcuffs, leg restraints, and some kind of like metal bar. He told me
Sometimes some video will just pop on my For You page and I wonder, how come? Because I don't even think about these things. It's not supposed to be here. Why are you here? This lady, shared a story how she was dating a pimp. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. So she's a single mom and she's trying to hustle to make money to take care of her child and herself as well. Then she met a guy. I'm going to share you all the story, of course, but let me just give you a hint so you know what you're going to watch. So she met this guy and he likes her, got her an apartment, got her a car. Then the guy was like, you know what, let's switch things up. I don't really, like the normal way we do it in the other room. Let us switch things up, okay? And she's like, switches up how? And he was like, you want to try BDSM? So they tried it and decided going to all these parties that they do stuff.
when I was 19, I fell in love with a man who turned out to be a pimp. I was a single mom with a 1-year-old and didn't know what direction my life was going in. I landed a job as a waitress at this sports bar called Scores on Wesley Chapel. Back in the day, Scores was jumping now. If you know, you know. It kind of reminded me of a strip club in a way because our manager, house mom, Miss Hazel, she did not play about her coins. It'd be about 20 waitresses working that night, and her rules did not change. If you did not make at least $250 in sales, you're going to be cleaning up at the end of the night. And the club didn't close till 3. So guess what I was doing? Cleaning that bitch up, but I didn't really have a choice. I had a 1-year-old, and I needed to figure shit out. I was working there about 2 months now when this dude named AJ came in early, around 4. I took his order, hand and Coke. He stayed for about an hour, and he dipped. He left me a pretty good tip, $10. The next night he showed up again, but this time he came with a few friends. He sat at the same table. I served him, and this time they asked for a bottle. They was turning up. I had never got a bottle order before, so I was super excited to go put it in Miss Hazel's face. I remember being so happy that night because it was my first night that I knew I was going to make quota and I didn't have to clean up. It was time for the club to close, so I was closing out his tab, and he tipped me $100. That was the biggest tip I ever got. I was on cloud 9. I didn't have to clean up the club, and I got some extra coin. When I got home later on that night, I realized that the $100 bill had his name, AJ, and his phone number on it. I wasn't stunned that shit. Like I said, I had a 1-year-old, and I was trying to survive. A couple days have passed. I'm at work. The place is about to close up, and he shows up. It's like 2 a.m. I tell him if he's going to order something, he needs to order quick because we're about to close up shop. He asked me why I never called him. I told him because I'm busy. And kept on about my business because I got shit to do. I finished cleaning up the club around 4:30, walked outside, and he was there. He asked me if I had a car. I didn't. He asked me if I was hungry. I was. He asked to take me to breakfast. And did. He was a gentleman. Asked me questions about my life, my plans, who I am. But the truth is, back then, I didn't know who I was. He dropped me off and he asked if he could see me again outside of the club. I said okay. It was unfamiliar territory for me. A man opening doors for me, putting his jacket over me when we go outside, taking me out without asking for anything in return. I liked him a lot. He started picking me up from the club more often. At this point, we're about a month in. He's driving me home one night and he's like, I'm tired of not being able to see you when I want to see you. You're not really making no real money in this club and it's taking away from how much time you get to spend with your son. I tell him I agree, but this is just where it is for me right now. He asked me if he could change that, would I be on board? I asked him, change it how? He told me to start looking at apartments and tell him which one I like and we'll go from there. So I did. I got approved for this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, beautiful apartment, and he paid for all of it. I have my own place. My son had his own room. I was so happy. That night, we blessed that apartment. That was our first time making love, and it was beautiful. It felt like I was in a movie. A man's never drawn me back before. Rubbed my feet, massaged my body. It was beautiful. The next morning, we woke up. He said, let's go have some breakfast. Then he said, let's go pick up my son. This was his first time meeting my son. He was 1, and he was playful. We picked my son up and we went out to buy furniture for the apartment and set up everything for my son's room. He made it into an actual Superman room. It was adorable. I was on top of the fucking world. Out of all the women in the world, he chose me. He told me he worked in transport, so he'd be gone for days at a time. Every time he came home, he had new gifts. He had a foot fetish, so I'd always get new shoes. He loved dressing me up, so I always had tons of dresses, tons of things to wear, lingerie. Always telling me that I was the woman he's been waiting for. I didn't understand what that meant at the time. After a few months, AJ told me that he wasn't happy in the bedroom anymore. I thought everything was great. I couldn't understand why. He asked me if I ever heard of BDSM. I said no. He showed me some videos. I looked at him like, nigga, what the fuck? He was already dominant in the bedroom, but this was on some other level. He told me to give it a chance if our relationship was going to work. So I said, okay. So I became his sub, and he became my dom, and he began to train me. Throat training was my first session. He just showed up with open mouth gag, handcuffs, leg restraints, and some kind of like metal bar. He told me he was going to go drop my son off to my grandparents, and he'll be back so we can start. I ain't gonna lie, I was scared as fuck. He had already put out what he wanted me to wear, so when he got back, I would be on my knees, ready to serve. When he got back to the apartment, I remember my heart. I could hear it in my head. First he bound my legs, then the wrist cuffs, then the mouth ball gag. I could barely breathe. There was puke everywhere. It was so traumatizing. I could feel my jaw locking up, and it still didn't matter. I was so happy when he was done. It felt like I had semi-died a few times and kept coming back. He took everything off of me. He told me I did so good, that he was so proud of me. I was shaking. I couldn't even speak. My jaw was like, I couldn't. He ran me a bath. He put me in the tub and he bathed me. Told me that in time I would get used to it. Morning, I was so sore. I could barely speak. I was still in shock. But he had already texted me what to wear to be ready for that night. The trainings varied depending on what he was feeling like. He was into feet, so foot worship was an easy night because it was just him pretty much having his way with my feet. Bondage nights, full body latex nights, you name it, he probably tried it. A few weeks had passed and he was right. I did become numb to it. I think he could see that things was changing because I barely spoke anymore. I just kind of just went with the flow. He told me to put on some shoes and come upstairs with my son one morning. And I was like, oh Lord, what the fuck now? He was standing next to a car, a Mitsubishi Diamante, I think is what it was called. He handed me the keys and told me there was nothing that he wouldn't do for me. I was so happy. I think that was the first time that I smiled in weeks. It already had a car seat in the back, so we decided to go for a ride. And I felt like while I was driving and the breeze was just blowing on me, all that shit just kind of disappeared. It just disappeared. He had me right back where he needed me to be. That night, AJ said we were going to a party. Told me what to wear, what time to be ready. It was this huge house, kind of like a mini mansion. It was a whole lot going on in there. If I had to describe it, I would probably call it like a fetish party. We walking around and different people's like tapping him up and stopping what they doing with other people and like, hey, AJ, he's talking to them, you good? And in my head, I'm like, damn, nigga, you come here a lot? He took me upstairs. We passed a few rooms. Then we got to this one room that was empty. He asked me what I thought about the place. I told him I didn't even know places like this exist. He explained to me that people have fetishes that they're not so comfortable speaking on. And this is a place that gives them an opportunity to explore. I told him I could understand that, but why are we here? He asked me if I could ever see myself being a dom. I said, how could I see myself being a dom when you're my dom? He said, and I'll always be your dom. But that doesn't mean that you can't also switch and be a dom. I told him that I wasn't into women, and I can't see myself doing the things that he did to me to another woman. He told me I wouldn't be dealing with women. I'd be dealing with men. My heart dropped to my ass. All I could see was the movie Players Club, and I was about to get my ass beat up. I started talking hysterically. AJ, what do you mean men? Men don't want to be beat up. Men don't want to be degraded. They don't want to be like, blah, 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 blah. He sat me down, told me to breathe. He asked me if I trust him. I said, yeah. He told me men pay really good money for these kind of services, and I won't ever have to have sex with them. He said he would never share my body in that way. I said, okay. That night he sent in a guy. He was like 6 feet tall. He had a black mask on his face and a collar on his neck. He got on his knees, and he had the leash in his hand to serve me. I was fucking shaking. I didn't know what the fuck to do. He started kissing my feet. I think he could sense how new I was to the world of fetishes because he started guiding me in a way, asking me, would you like me to this? Would you like me to that? That ride home that night was super silent. I had a lot in my head. I had never had that kind of control over a man before, so it was some new territory. I can't lie. I kind of liked it. AJ started taking me to the house of fetishes 2-3 times a week. There are so many fetishes. It got to a point where I was actually excited to find out what kind of guy I was going to have what kind of fetish tonight that I would possibly learn. I became addicted to the power, and me and AJ's relationship was stronger than ever. AJ had to go out of town for a few days, and I didn't really have much friends anymore because AJ kind of isolated me. But I knew there was one girl that would still pick up the phone. I hit her up. She was still working at Score. She was like, come through tonight. It's going to be jumping. DJ Nix is hosting. I was like, okay. I had a car. I didn't tell AJ because I knew he wouldn't let me go. It felt so nice to just be regular and just have fun. I was dancing. I was having like drinks. It was fun. I'm there about 2 hours before this girl named Keisha come up to me and asked me if I know AJ. I recognized her face from the fetish house, so I said, you know I do. She asked me what we had going on. I told her, bitch, I'm speaking riddles, so if you had something to say. She kind of smirked, laughed or whatever and said, all right, and she walked off. Later on, I went outside to catch some air, and she caught up with me again. She told me she had been down with AJ for years now, and that all the girls live at the house, but I'm the only one that seemed to keep coming and going, so she wanted to know what's up. I said, down with AJ how? All the girls live at what house? Bitch, what the fuck is you on? She said she's AJ's bottom bitch. She said that house you keep coming and going to, that's his. She said all the girls in there belong to him. My head started fucking spinning. I told her I didn't believe her. I told her me and him have a good thing going. We have our own place. He just bought me a car. Her mouth dropped. She said, what the fuck you mean y'all got your own place? I said, yeah, bitch, we got our own place. She said, prove it. I gave her my number and told her to call me the next morning, and I'll give her the address to where we are, and we can talk to him together. AJ was coming home the next morning, and I knew he was going to come over. I knew he was going to make breakfast. I knew he was going to spend time with my son. He never failed at those things. So I told her to come over before that. AJ was real particular, so I know he would always text me when he's about 10, 15 minutes away because he wants me to make sure that everything is together. He didn't like clutter. He didn't like mess. I told her to hide in the bathroom. He came in the house, hugged me, kissed my son, asked us how things was going, put his stuff down, stashed some money, and said he was going to take a shower. When he got out the shower and got dressed, he came out into the living room. Me and her was sitting there waiting. He looked at her and smirked. He said, what y'all got going on? I said, this bitch said that y'all know each other. He tells me to go put the baby in the room. While I'm doing that, I hear her start yelling, so you got a place with her? So you been lying this whole time? So you got all us in that motherfucking house all day, blah, 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 but you over here playing house? I turned up the TV in my son's room, closed the door, came back out. At this point, the way she acted, I knew it couldn't be no lie. Whole time she going off, I'm just staring at AJ like if I had laser tag eyes, I would burn your mother loving head off. And he looking right back at me. He slaps Keisha. Everything went silent. Dragged her by her hair out of the apartment. Told her to take her ass home and don't ever pull no shit like this again. She left. My heart was on fire. I was in such a shock and rage. Everything started spinning. I asked him if it was true. He told me, now that I know, we might as well come clean about everything. He told me that he never intended on finding me and falling in love. He told me I didn't know what I was capable of and that he needed to give me time. He told me I was different from them and that he didn't want to share me with anyone else. That the room that he had me working in was the room that was eventually going to be mine. He told me he'd be back in a couple days and I need to be ready to go to work. I cried. I cried so much. I couldn't believe I was that stupid. The next day, Keisha sent me a text. She said the house got raided and AJ got arrested. I looked at the news. I saw that there was a raid that happened at a house. They found drugs, money, prostitutes. He got sentenced to 9 years. I used all the money he stashed in the house to start over. Changed my phone number, and I never talked to AJ again.
I don't know how I found myself on inside of TikTok, but we move. So, yeah, things are happening. Okay, things are happening, and she just went straight up to tell us. In fact, I saw the part two first. I had to go for the part one, like, what is going on here? So I don't really have much to say about that video, but if you do, kindly share your thoughts in the comment section respectfully. All right, so we're going to move to the second video, which talk about unlearning internalized misogyny. We women naturally, we've been taught to hate each other. We've taught not to have each other's back. We've been taught not to come together, because when you see women come together and gisting, they see it as gossip. Oh, you don't gossip, you don't do this. We've been taught not to talk to each other deeply. Naturally, we women just want to hate each other, right? So you have to unlearn this thing to progress, right? So I saw this video of this lady that actually makes sense, and I decided to share with you all today to watch. So let's watch this video, and I'll share my thoughts at the end of the video.
If you are a woman, you definitely have internalized misogyny. I am not judging you, that is just a fact. And I'm going to tell you a couple of ways that you can unlearn it. Because we live in a patriarchal society, misogyny is everywhere and it's in everyone to varying degrees. But for women, it is internalized, and that is where we are taught to hate ourselves and other women. It is really, really important that you unlearn it so that you can have better relationships with other women, but also yourself. Maybe you don't have like a burning hatred for other women, but maybe you judge them in ways that you don't judge men, or for things that you don't judge men for. You have certain expectations for them that are different from what you would expect from a man. Things like that. Something that has been really integral in me unlearning my internalized misogyny has been prioritizing female perspectives. So I make sure that I'm primarily following women on YouTube, on TikTok. I listen to female podcasts. I watch shows that are written by women, read books that are written by women, and I think that's a really good place to start. And also making sure that there is a diverse selection of women that you follow. Like, don't just follow white women, don't just follow black women. Like, make sure that who you're following and the media that you're consuming is very diverse, so that you can really understand that women are not a monolith. And we show up in so many different shapes and sizes and ways. We're cis, we're trans, we're masculine, we're feminine, we're so many different things. And I think expanding your idea of what a woman is a big piece in unlearning your internalized misogyny. One book that I really recommend is The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf, because it talks about beauty standards and how they are used to perpetuate misogyny and oppress women. And I know you guys aren't gonna like this one, but believing that body hair is disgusting on women but acceptable on men is an aspect of internalized misogyny that we all need to unlearn. I don't want to hear about your sensory issues and stuff, because I understand that is a completely separate thing. But when you think it's disgusting when a woman has body hair, but you think it's like sexy or something, or attractive or neutral when a man has it, that is something that you might want to unlearn. You have to really start to question yourself and really look inward when you find yourself questioning or judging a woman based on her appearance or her choices or how she acts. Ask yourself if you would think that same thing if a man were doing it. And just try to replace that judgment with curiosity and empathy and really think deeply about why she might be doing that, or if it's even that big of a deal to begin with, or is it just a big deal because I've been sold this image of women and how women should be, and she's not fitting into that. Examine ideas about how you think a woman should act or dress in order to be respected, because women have inherent value. They are humans and we deserve respect regardless of what we're wearing or regardless of how we're acting. If we're not actively hurting anyone, that should not impact whether someone treats us with respect. For example, treating a woman terribly or disrespecting her because of what she's wearing, or thinking less about her because of what she's wearing or what she's doing with her body. Things like that are absolutely not okay, and we don't do that with men. Work on the need to distance yourself from other women in order to feel special or in order to feel good about yourself. It should not take for you to be like, oh, I'm not like those other girls, in order to feel like you're good enough as a person or as a woman. Like, I think it's cute when we all have like a trend that we like, or there's certain things that we all like to wear, or stuff like that. Like, I don't feel the need to distance myself from other women because there's nothing shameful about being like another woman. Like, I just look within myself, and so many of the things that I like about myself came from other women, like from observing them, from having intimate relationships with them, from just being around them. And there's nothing shameful or anything bad about that. I think it's actually really cute when we like similar things, or we go through phases and trends and stuff together. I think it's cute. I think it's fun. And notice how men don't have that sort of problem as much, where they don't feel like they need to distance themselves from their proximity to other men and how similar they can be. Because of course, if you're around people and you are one of those people, you're going to have similarities, and there's only a problem with that when it's women. Also, women of all sexualities need to unlearn the idea that romantic relationships are more important than platonic or familial relationships. That's not true whatsoever. For one, romantic relationships are the most fragile type of relationship that you can have, so it's kind of ridiculous to put all your eggs in that basket. But also, the other people in your life are not placeholders for when you find that romantic person for you. The dog's in the background. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this. I'm actually writing an ebook that's going to come out in January. It was originally supposed to come out in December, but I am pushing it back so that I can spend more time on it and really make it everything that I want it to be. But it will have stuff in it that's a lot like this and the other videos that I have on my page. Thank you.
Talking about the armpits, when it comes to men, nobody will tell a man your armpit stings, go and wax or something. I don't even think men actually, the percentage of men that go to wax their armpits, I don't know, it's very, very small. Okay. But women, any little hair that is growing under the armpits already, you cannot wear sleeveless. You cannot, show yourself because you're already feeling insecure. And when another woman see you, they be like, "Oh, that's disgusting. You're not supposed to wear your clothes like that." But a man can do it. Let's talk about flat tummy. Men, especially married men, are the ones that have big stomach. Their stomach is so big without getting pregnant, without nothing. They just eat anyhow, drink anyhow, without not taking care of their stomach. But these married men, or these men that have pot belly, they are the very first person that will see a woman and judge her stomach. And not just them, they might say it in front of another woman, and that same woman will also judge another woman's stomach. Like, a woman can just be passing and she has a big stomach. You see a woman, oh, look at her stomach, so big. Why would she actually giving birth? Why is her stomach so big like that? Her stomach is so big. They body shame her. Or let a man pass with pot belly. It is cute. It is not a problem. He is a man. There's not a problem when it has to involve a man. So if you're in that kind of category that you just see your fellow women and you hate some things in them, but when it comes to it being around a man, you like it, you have internalized misogyny and you have to unlearn it for you to decenter men. And a lot of things that they lie to us about women. I feel like when women come together, I always say is when a woman, 2 or 3 women comes together and they open up to each other, they are very truthful to each other and they love each other. I don't see, in fact, I don't even know any kind of community that is greater than that. And most men call this kind of thing, or society call this kind of gathering as gossip, or you guys are gossiping. I feel like gossip sometimes makes sense if you, in fact, gossip makes sense, okay, because they kind of want you not to talk about some things to your fellow women because they want you to be ashamed of what you're going through or anything. And that is why you see when a married man see his wife having friends, especially a very close friend that they talk to, they got each other's back, is always like, I don't want to see you with this friend again. I don't want you to have friends anymore. Men are always quick to tell their girlfriends or their wives not to have friends because they know what a genuine friend would do to their girlfriends or their wives. So if naturally you judge women in some things that you usually don't judge men, you just have to unlearn it. Yes, it's not something that, okay, we have to judge you for doing that. No, it's something that has happened, so you have to be cautious of it and just unlearn it. A lot of things you have to like about a woman. See, I don't even insult women that part, even if I don't care. And if you insult a woman beside me and you're a man, I'll look for something to insult in your body, because you cannot just be insulting a particular woman person. Like a lot of things that men just get a pass on, but when it comes to a woman, we can't get that pass. Anyways, can you share your thoughts about this video down in the comment section? What is your take on internalized misogyny and the first video we talked about? I'd like to know your thoughts down in the comment section respectfully. Check out Myra Davis, and thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.